In the past 3 days, this man, George McDonald, has been the talk of Denver, his hometown. His 7 children have cheered him on as he came within 14 pins of breaking the all-time 40-game pinfall record. He averaged 2:32 for the 40 games. He has fought off the field of 112 men to maintain the lead he's had from the beginning. This is George McDonald, the man to beat this afternoon on the Professional Bowlers Tour. Bringing you competition between the finest bowlers in the world. It's the Professional Bowlers Tour. This is an ABC Sports exclusive. From the Broadway Bowl in Denver, Colorado, the 4th stop in the PBA Tour, it's the $40,000 Denver Open Championship. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Bud Palmer. Welcome to one of the most beautiful sections of our country. This is the 4th of 13 tournaments on the Winter Tour. Total prize money on the Winter Tour is $800,000. This afternoon, it's $40,000, with the winner picking up $6,000. And on this afternoon show, if any of our bowlers bowls a perfect 300 game, ABC will present him a check for $10,000, and Lincoln Mercury will give him a brand new Cougar. Right now, I'd like to introduce a gentleman who has been with us all the time, who's won everything on the PBA Tour, picked up a check here, Billy Welu. Billy?
Thank you, Bud. Hi, everybody. And it's going to be another exciting week and maybe a 300 game, Bud, as we had 2 in the tournament again this week.
Okay, here's what you're going to see this afternoon now. Now, last Wednesday, we started with 112 bowlers. 40 games later, we're down to the top 5, and this week, they're all right-handers. Earl Johnson, the 5th place finisher, takes on the 4th place bowler, Jimmy Certain. And the winner of this first match then plays the 3rd place finisher, Don Johnson. Now, the winner of the second match plays Dave Soutar, who finished second. Then the match for the championship hits the winner of the last game against the #1 man who has been waiting in the wings, George McDonald, for $6,000 in prize money. Well, right now, let's take a look at our 5 finalists as they warmed up earlier today. Billy?
All right, Bud. And this first man you're going to see from St. Paul, affectionately called Twirly, Earl Johnson, the last of the big crankers, against Jimmy Certain, one of the powerful new breed of our rookie crop on the tour, Don Kokomo Johnson from Kokomo, Indiana, former winner here at the Denver Open. From Detroit, Michigan, who had a 300 game in the first round, Dave Soutar. And the man who bowled so many big games all week, the tournament leader, George McDonald.
So there they are, the finalists of the Denver Open Championship, with George McDonald, the man to beat this afternoon. Okay, we're all set for the first match here in the Denver Open, with Jimmy Certain taking on Earl Johnson. This is Earl Johnson leading off, and you can see they're bowling for $1,800. That's for 4th place. 5th place is $1,600. Good way to start out. This is Jimmy Certain. He's averaged .241 on these 2 lanes for the 40 games. He hasn't had a win here on the PBA Tours yet. His average in 67 was .208. He throws him down there, doesn't he?
He really does, Bud. We talk about a powerful new breed of bowlers. This is one of the strongest ball shooters, not only of the new breed, of the history of all-time bowling. He reminds me an awful lot of Junie McMahon. He can really crank it.
There he is in his bright green shirt. You're watching in color, and this is live. Jimmy Certain finished twice, second twice in 1967. Got them both. Good start for Jimmy Certain from Huntsville, Alabama. In the blue shirt now, stepping up, is Earl Johnson, 6 feet, 170-pounder. He's averaged .236.
But I referred to him as affectionately called Twirly. He got this nickname in his younger days. He cranked the ball terrifically and used a big hook. Even though the boys might be cranking it somewhat today, they won't be using the big hook, because the best path here was a sharp breaking hook between the second and third arrow.
Three in a row. What a start there for Earl Johnson. Jimmy's working on a two-bagger. Jimmy's picked up $700 here this year. Finished 20th at Phoenix. His mother and father are watching in Hartsville, Alabama. Jimmy's from Huntsville, Alabama. Boy, he really is a powerful bowler, isn't he?
But there would be a perfect shot to depict what we talk about cranking it. Terrific turn, an awful lot of fingers, and you could see that 5-pin whistle right through there.
And we're all even, you can see. Each 3 strikes apiece. And by the way, we're actually, the center here, Broadway Bowl, is in Littleton, Colorado, which is just south of Denver.
But maybe we'll have 2 300 games.
Well, so far it's going along pretty smoothly here. Blue shirt now is Earl Johnson, the veteran on the tour. He has 5 wins. Boy, they're knocking all the timber down.
But that's been pretty much the story here all week. It took 301 over to make the finals. It took 107 over to cash.
You cashed a bit, didn't you?
I'm very fortunate, Bud. I slipped in there and got a little check.
Is this 5 in a row? Oh! What happened on that one, Billy?
Well, Bud, he pulled the shot a little inside of his target. You'll see we have the 4, 7, 9, 10. He went to the center, 2 directly through. Now he's going to go to the left. Slide the 4.
Almost! Look at that pin. Look at it. Now, it did not top. Tremendous effort then by Earl Johnson.
That's one of the tough breaks, Bud. Executed perfectly, trying to slide that 4 into the 9 and the 10, and it went just a fraction in front of the 10.
Jimmy Certain trying for his 5th strike in a row. 16 ahead as you can see. Whoa, I looked a little heavy there, but he got away with it.
Well, where Earl got a tough break, Jimmy got a good one.
Big enthusiastic crowd here at the Broadway Bowl. Look at this game, will you? Jimmy Certain, 26 ahead. And they go again!
Bud, that's what we call a flower pot strike. When you go through, everything just separates. And that increases his lead to 36-10.
Earl Johnson now in the 6th frame. Left for 7. That's a good hit.
Yes, it was, Bud, after being high, when I say that high, we mean he catches too much of the head pin, goes through the nose of the triangle.
Good close-up of Earl Johnson there. You're watching this live. And in color, and this is the thing to watch right now, is Jimmy Certain coming up here after Earl Johnson gets through, because Jimmy Certain has 6 strikes in a row. Earl Johnson here trailing by 36-10.
There you see it, 114 in the 5th. Jimmy Certain with 6 in a row is still perfect. But there's the margin of difference. There was just a fraction of difference in the 5th frame where he left the 4, 7, 9, 10.
There's Jimmy Certain now. He has 6 in a row. He's trying for a 7th. And don't forget, if Jimmy Certain bowls a perfect game, he will receive a check for $10,000 from ABC and a cougar from Lincoln Mercury. Oh! Drop, you dog, it doesn't. He He had 6 in a row. He's trying for his 7th there.
He got a little arc in that shot like he did when he blew the 5 out in the previous frame on that right-hand lane. But that time the ball came back to finish a little higher into the pocket. And from that angle, the 6 didn't come off of the wall and catch the 10 for him.
He gets the spare here in the 7th, and he leads by 35. And if he keeps up this, he'll play Don Johnson in the 2nd match. 5th place money to the loser in this match goes $1,600, and to the winner goes $1,800 and the chance to move up and perhaps win the 1st place check of $6,000.
Solid again, Bud.
And Jimmy Certain leading here strongly. This is Jimmy Certain we're looking at in the 1st match here. He leads by 35 pins over Earl Johnson. Earl Johnson stepping up now in the right-hand lane. There's the score as it goes right now. Jimmy Certain really got us going off strong here with 6 strikes in a row. That's our leader, Jimmy Certain. And here's Earl Johnson. Had that tough split. You know, Earl Johnson has improved his game tremendously, and recently we asked him why.
I was going so bad, I just decided to change everything. The span of my ball about 1 inch, and from 4 inches to 5 inches. It was just the best move I ever made.
There's a good move, too. Fine move by Earl Johnson. See, it really paid off. Jimmy Certain now. He's in the 9th, leading by 15 now.
Big strike. Big strike, Bud. He couldn't afford an open, certainly wanted a mark, but the strike moves him back into a 25-pin lead.
What is different about the sweep of his motion as he comes down?
Well, he's what we
Looks a
call
little different.
in a cranking position. He has the arm behind the back and has a little cup, the wrist around the ball, which gives him more of a cranking motion so that he can go from left to right around the ball.
Sort of a hooking, sweeping
Right,
motion
he has
with his
a
arm.
sweeping
Yeah,
motion.
there
You see it. The arm around. That moves him back to a 35-pin lead, but he must continue striking to ensure victory. If he does not strike on this ball, Earl Johnson still has a chance to strike out in the 10th and win.
Jimmy here, checking the score. He leads by 35, as Billy Welu just said.
But the good count on that ball will ensure him victory, because even if he misses that pin, he would have a 257 game. If he misses, if he converts 258, the best possible score that Earl Johnson can make is 254, and that's getting off and winging pretty strongly.
Jimmy Certain finishes, I believe, with, what, 268?
Right, I want to correct myself here. Norm Myers, our statistician,
Earl Johnson with another one.
just projects the score sheet, and it's 268 instead of 258.
Earl will pick up $1,600 for finishing the 5th here.
But that was sort of a, well, I have to throw it, but I don't care, I've already lost type shot. It's kind of rough to shoot 240 and lose. Very happy to bowl a good game, but kind of dejected at losing.
Nice. And 242 for Earl Johnson. Jimmy Certain now moves a step closer to the first prize of $6,000 as he faces Don Johnson from Kokomo, Indiana. Okay, here we go now for our second match between another Johnson. This one is Don Johnson against Jimmy Certain. In case you just joined us, Jimmy here is the winner of $1,800. Earl Johnson, will be defeated, received $1,600. It's live and in color, and Jimmy with a real green shirt on. he's starting out the way he did the last game.
The boys are looking very colorful with their multicolored shirts, Bud. And right now, Jimmy Certain's looking very powerful with that strike ball. Here's the Kokomo Kid, the former winner of the Denver Open, 1964 winner. A little slow, gets an awful good break as he hits high on the head pin, leaving only the 10. Thus far, both Earl Johnson and Jimmy Certain, Bud, are semi-rollers. The ball tracks outside the thumb hole, and also Don Johnson.
See, Don here was the winner in 1964.
Ooh.
That was a little shifty, wasn't it?
He'd used the slide rule there. He had it figured pretty close.
He's shaking his head about that, too, and I don't blame him. Don has averaged 225 on these two lanes. He has 4 wins on the PBA Tour, and his average last year was 210. That was 8th as far as the tour was concerned.
Very slow and very deliberate in his approach. I'm sure you folks will remember the great battle that Don Johnson and Jim Stefanich waged in the Tournament of Champions in the tie match and then in the sudden death playoff. Don's great pressure player.
Here's Jimmy Certain, who started out the last game, which he won over Earl Johnson with 6 strikes in a row. Is that 2? That is. He's getting out of there flying.
Well, the Redstone missile range is not too far from Huntsville, and he's got one of those missiles working today, Bud.
As you can see, he leads by 10. Denver Open, in case you just joined us. Big one coming up next week, the Cougar Open in Kansas City. Total prize money there is $75,000. And it's 3 in a row for Jimmy Certain. That puts him about 20 ahead of the man from Kokomo, Indiana here, Don Johnson, who's 27 years old.
Beautiful carry, Bud. The value in Don Johnson's speed paid off for him there.
We asked Don Johnson what he thought was the most important part of his game earlier.
Well, I think the most important part of my game is keeping my feet real slow, going slow to the line, and also concentration plays a great part in professional bowling. Now, actually, I feel my game is not as good as a lot of the other pros out here, so I try to make it up in concentration.
Well, he concentrated almost, except for 1 pin there.
And, Bud, that 1 pin is a very valuable break. In the 5 falling, leaving only the 2 standing, he now has a relatively easy spare. When the 5 remains standing, it poses a possibility of chopping off the front pin.
Well, Jimmy Certain is leading here. He has a perfect game going over Don Johnson. Live and in color, it's Professional Bowlers Tour. You can see Jimmy Certain is leading here by 11 pins going into the 4th. And Jimmy in the first game had 9 strikes, 6 in a row. Don't forget, a perfect game on our show, $10,000. The man who bowls a perfect game, and a Cougar from Lincoln Mercury.
Bud, that's 9 strikes out of 11 shots, and 3 for 3 this game. He's had 12 out of 14 shots. And He's looking pretty good here.
4 in a row for Jimmy Certain. See the man with the glasses on behind Jimmy. That's Joe Richards, a veteran bowling writer from the New York Daily News. He's seen 56 300 sanctioned games, and perhaps this afternoon we'll see his 57th.
That ever-present cigar, he really delights us all week. He's very astute.
Is that 5 in a row? It is!
Bud, this boy is really sharp.
Now here is that release.
There you see the cranking motion. That body position triggered sets him up for great leverage in the shot. Now watch, when the adrenaline is flowing, when you're excited, you see how he moves around on the approach.
Don Johnson, trailing by 31, leaves the 7. That was a tough break.
Yes, it was. He's using a very deep inside angle. He's a little deeper than anyone in the finals field today. And when I say deeper, I mean more toward the center of the lane. Those arrows are 5 boards apart, and he's inside the 3rd arrow, so he's between the 15th and 20th board. From here, I'd have to say he's rolling about over 17.
There are the marks that go over. The board you're talking about. He's got the spare easily. He trails by 32. Don Johnson. Mentioned he averaged 225 on these 2 lanes. He's 27 years old. By the way, the average age of our finalists is 32 this afternoon. It's the first time we've been over 20.
Bud, the boy has a great arm swing. Here you can see full-length pendulum swing. Gets that good break off the wall again, leaving only the 2. But the way Jimmy Certain is striking, Don Johnson's going to have to find that 1-3 pocket.
And Johnson now trails Jimmy Certain by 33. Jimmy Certain has 5 strikes in a row. Denver Open. Last game, which he defeated Earl Johnson, he had 6 in a row.
Hey-oh, brother. Hit him thin and watch him spin. That ball is really alive.
Now he has 6, the same as last game. He had 9 altogether in the first game. And don't forget, a perfect game, ABC will give Jimmy Certain a check for $10,000.
Very intense.
How about this one?
Powerful strike, Bud.
Got 7 in a row going for Jimmy Certain. There they are, strung out for you. And the tension really mounts here. The Broadway Bowl, located in Littleton, Colorado, just south of Denver. And now Don Johnson trails by 53.
Well, he's not in any trouble leaving the 2-pin, but he's in trouble because he's not striking, and Jimmy Certain is. Jimmy Certain now 16 strikes out of 18 shots. That's pretty well the story here this afternoon, Bud.
That's a pretty good story for Jimmy Certain. Don Johnson has the spare.
Bud, we'd like to point out the new breed is a very business-like player. Not only on the lanes, they are very good at keeping their books, investing their money. And to show you the acumen that this boy has, Don Johnson staged his own tournament in Kokomo. It was a thrill of his lifetime, the Kokomo Open on our fall tour.
Oh, he needs more of those.
He needs a whole basketful, Bud. His best possible score is 236.
Okay, here we go again now. It is Jimmy Certain. He has 7 strikes in a row. This is live, so you might see your first 300 sanctioned game on television. So hold your hats. He's got 8.
Bud, those pins are getting off of there like the skiers on the slopes around here.
And that fellow in the orange shirt behind him is Tommy Tuttle. who was the alternate. He finished 6th there. There it is. And the tension really mounts at the Broadway Bowl. 8 in a row for this young lad from Huntsville, Alabama.
But the same hit that stopped him in the first game. In the 7th frame, he left what we would call a soft 10. The ball enters the pocket coming from too wide an angle, and the 6 won't come back off the wall with any force.
And Jimmy Certain now leads by 63 pins. There's our winner, Jimmy Certain, who shot 6 strikes in a row in his first game, left the 10 pin. 8 in a row in the second game, left the 10 pin. Maybe, who knows, if he keeps on at this 8, 10, 12, he might have a perfect game by the championship. And here's Don Johnson, who really ran into a buzzsaw.
That was the best stroke of the match for Don Johnson. A very slow approach, full-length arm swing. And the most important item in that last shot was his full-length follow-through.
Don Johnson will finish 4th, winning $1,800. Earl Johnson finished 5th, winning $1,600. And Jimmy Certain keeps on going. Here's where they finished in the tournament. Tommy Tuttle, $1,400.
Keith Remsky, who made a great run, lost out in the position round game 13. Don McCune from Munster, Indiana. Harry Smith making the finals again, getting $1,150. Nelson Burton Jr., who had a little tough luck, was up there most all the way, finishing in 10th spot. Sam Baca, you'll remember from last week, got $1,050, continued his good bowling. Jimmy Mack from Dover, New Jersey. Bill Allen, who had the string going, 2 wins in a row, made the finals here, but his charm didn't bring him through, and he wound up with $950. Just a bad week for Bill, huh? Now there's Dick Weber, of course, was on our telecast here last year, got $900. And then Edward Day from Fresno, $850. And Gary Mage from Vancouver, Washington, in the final 16th spot for $800.
Well, Don Johnson finishes up with $212. And here's Jimmy Certain, who's really been hot. And speaking of that good luck charm of Bill Allen's, that carried him to 2 wins in a row in Las Vegas and San Jose, Jimmy Certain today is carrying Bill Allen's good luck charm. There's going to be a scrap for this good luck charm.
I'm going to have to sit around if I can't get in the bidding there, Bud. Incidentally, Jimmy Certain's wife, Linda, is home watching in Huntsville, and I know she's very excited about now. Jimmy finished 2nd in our Rookie of the Year balloting. Of course, we had Mike Durbin on a couple of weeks ago, who was Rookie of the Year. Jimmy had a great season. However, he didn't come through with that win. And maybe this one could set him up if he could win here today.
And he finishes with a 267 game. Don Johnson at 212. So Jimmy Certain now moves up to meet Dave Soutar in the 3rd round of the $40,000 Denver Open Championship. Live and in color, you're watching the Professional Bowlers Tour. Here's what's happened here today. Jimmy Certain has been red hot. In the first game, he had 6 strikes in a row, 9 altogether to beat Earl Johnson. Jimmy Certain scored 268 in that game. In the second game, he defeated Don Johnson. He fell to 267 in that. He started out with 7 strikes in a row, had 9 altogether. And now here he is. He moves up to meet Dave Soutar here. And Dave is one of the fellows who bowled a 300 sanctioned perfect game in this tournament. That was his 9th. Let's see if Jimmy Certain can get off flying again. 6 strikes in a row in the first game, 7 in the second game.
What'd you say, buddy? Fell off a little bit the last game from
Yeah.
268 down to 267.
That's right, half. That's right. It's 1 pin. And that's the first time he hasn't come flying out of the gate. And the winner of this tournament qualifies for the Firestone Tournament of Champions. Other great tournaments coming up are the Ebonite Gold Cup and the Miller Open. And next week, it's the $75,000 Cougar Open from Kansas City. Now here is Dave Soutar. He has 3 wins. Averaged 210 last year, 6th among the PBA bowlers.
Dave's been red hot too, Bud. He made the finals last week in San Jose, the 16-man finals. He got out of the gate here with a 300 game in the first round and a 14:01 opening round block. So he's really been red hot.
We asked Dave Soutar what he specifically concentrates on before he steps to the line.
When I'm at the line, I concentrate on my spot. Also, I concentrate on keeping my feet at a nice, even pace, because as the game goes on, I seem to walk a little faster and throw the ball a little harder. So I have to keep it at an even pace.
He's very pleased with his shot. You can see a little light in the pocket and getting them off the wall for the double.
Jimmy Certain, second frame. And Jimmy, for the first time this afternoon, trails by 10 pins. And if he wins here today, it'll be his first win on the tour.
And he wants to win very badly because then he would be eligible for the Firestone Tournament of Champions. That's a must. You must win a tournament on the tour. That's a speed factor, Bud, the soft 10, but he didn't hook it big that time. He went a little more direct into the pocket, but he had great speed, so he didn't get the full carry. The ball deflected a little bit as it went into the 1-3 pocket.
Denver Open, live and in color.
He really wings it on those spares on the right, not giving it a chance to hook, cutting down that margin for missing.
Now it's Dave Soutar, who bowled a perfect game here, leading, as you can see, by 10. Last week in San Jose, he bowled a 288 game, so he is really hot.
Great hitting power. The 6 came off the wall and kicked that 10 out with authority. And a little sideline, Bud, our statistician today, Norm Myers, drilled the bowling ball for Dave Soutar last week that he is using all the way through the tournament last week and all the way through the tournament this week. He's pretty pleased with Norm.
Should be.
But there's an adjustment factor. He came light into the pocket on the left-hand lane. That time he adjusted his target area 1 board left, and with the good lift that he got, it carried him a little bit too high into the pocket.
And Dave leads by 18 now.
There you see, Dave Soutar spoke about the spot. He's leading by 18 pins, and but it's paying off for him in concentrating on that spot.
Well, so far it is. He's facing Jimmy Certain, who reeled off a fantastic first game, 268 to knock off Earl Johnson, 267 to beat Don Johnson. Earl Johnson, finishing 5th, picks up a check for $1,600, and Don Johnson, for finishing 4th, picks up $1,800. Of course, they're fighting for first place money of $6,000. And this is live. Crowd really enthusiastic here in Denver. Big crowds all the time. You know, Denver is the mile-high capital, gateway to ski country USA. Such outstanding resorts as Vail, Colorado, Aspen, Arapahoe, Loveland, Snowmass. What do you call that?
Strip that little forward.
And now that reduces Mr. Soutar's lead to 8 pins now. Dave coming up in the fifth, working on a spare. Very deliberate. Notice how he holds that hand down.
Right. And at that point, he is concentrating on his spot. Beautiful carry. But in referring to Dave Soutar looking at his spot, most all of the bowlers are spot bowlers. Now, some may look at the arrows, some may look at the dots, some may spot as far down as the pins. The fact that they are looking at a target area means spot bowling.
What happened there?
Well, he's using speed to keep the line, and he got a little too much speed, and the 6-pin went over the 10. Very powerful ball that time.
And the bowler behind Dave Soutar is the alternate there, Tom Tuttle, sitting beside the man in the glasses, who is Joe Richards. There's that arm motion we were talking about.
Quite a few of the bowlers have remained this week, Bud, as we don't have too far to go over to Kansas City. Gene Roda's here, Don Glover, Kurt Schmidt, Ronnie Winger. Quite a gallery.
Don Carter wasn't here this week, but he'll certainly be at the Cougar Open in Kansas City next week. I'm sure he's watching now.
It's a big strike for...
What are his chances here?
Well, Bud, I'd like to talk a little bit about it. He was over-anxious on that shot. This is a normal thing that would happen. In his anxiety, he pulled that shot and went into the nose, as we call it, too much of the head pin. Got a tough break and not breaking it up. Now he's got to move to the left and try and just barely touch that 6-pin on the right-hand side, sliding it over. He'll use good speed and wing it. It's going too much to the right.
That's a tough break for Jimmy Certain. You can see it. He looks a bit discouraged, shaking his head. And he trails by about 20. He trails exactly by 24 pins now.
This is a must situation. When you make a bad shot like that, you want to really come back with a good ball.
And he does.
The mark of a champion. He's a future champion if he doesn't win today. He's got to win sometime. There, as you look at the score, Bud, you can see the value of keeping those frames clean. Loses 4 pins back on the count and going for the spare. And then, of course, you lose 11 pins when you don't fill the frame.
That was late coming in.
But they've got an awful nice break on the 8-pin falling, because the 8-pin is exactly or directly behind the 2. It takes a great shot to cover the 2-8. Here he can hit to the left or right lightly and still make the spare. But the 2-8, you have to hit it head on.
Dave Soutar here, as you can see, leads by 23, as we mentioned. He's in that beautiful orange shirt if you're watching in color, and this is also live. He bowled a perfect game here earlier this week, and he bowled 288 last week. Now, here's this footwork of Dave Soutar.
Very slow, very smooth, well coordinated. Gets a good lock, good knee bend, good leverage.
And he increases his lead over Jimmy Certain. You know, a comfortable way to spend a winter afternoon is watching live competition amongst the finest bowlers in professional bowling. Live and in color, it's the Denver Open. You can see Dave Soutar leading Jimmy Certain by 23 pins. Jimmy Certain won the first 2 matches, defeating Earl Johnson in the first match and Don Johnson in the second, bowling games of 268 and 267. But he's having his problems here against Dave Soutar. Here's the young fella from Huntsville, Alabama. He's 27 years old.
After all those strikes he had, he would really like to have one of them right here.
And he has it right there.
He was very pleased. Whenever he draws his fists clenched in close to his chest like that, that means, I'm very happy about that shot.
And as he's bowling here in the 9th, that reduces Dave Soutar's lead over Jimmy Certain here to 13 pins. That's the one that's giving him problems in the first two. He left that 10, got it then.
Well, that extra reach gave him that little extra roll, and you saw the 6 came off the wall. Give it a little love tap. Made it 3 in a row, and he's now definitely in the match. He only trails by 3.
Dave Soutar now in the 9th. Perfect ball, I'd say.
He quickly now increases it back to 13. But you can see the value of putting those strikes together. Anytime you put 2 together, the accumulative score increases by 10.
I think it's good you give us those tips there because people are just getting interested in bowling, like know how to score, Billy. Close up. The grip that Dave Soutar takes. That low starting position.
And he got a little trip forward too, Bud, and it sets him up into a position where he could close out the match now. That puts him into the 230s. The count on this ball would determine whether he could close it out or not. He does not need a strike on this ball to close out Jimmy Certain. He needs an 8-pin count and a spare, or if he gets 9, he can miss it and still close out Jimmy Certain. There it is.
That does it. Dave Soutar is the winner. Very disappointing for Jimmy Certain, who was looking for his first win on the PBA Tour, bowling 2 tremendous games of 268 and 267 to beat Earl Johnson and Don Johnson. But here's our winner, and he will face George McDonald for first place. It's Dave Soutar. And he bowls 247.
A very powerful 247. Ball had a lot of hitting power, like Jimmy had in those big strings he had going earlier.
There's our winner. All on Wide World of Sports, coming up right after the bowling on most of these stations.
Jimmy's best possible score now is 212.
There's George McDonald, who will be facing Dave Soutar in the finals with the glasses on the left-hand side of your picture. And it's a 2-11 game for Jimmy Certain. Dave Soutar, the winner, bowling 247. So the story of the Denver Open Championship is coming up to a climax right now as Dave Soutar gets set to meet George McDonald from Denver, Colorado. And at stake, the championship and first prize money is $6,000. Well, here we are back at the Denver Open again. I'm Bud Palmer along with Billy Welu. And Billy, you've been doing an awful lot of talking this afternoon about spot bowling, and we've shown the arrows on the lanes. Does everybody bowl this way?
Well, yes, Bud. Everyone does bowl by target area. The difference is in where they select their target. Now, if you look at the pins, they talk about pin bowling, but you're actually a spot bowler because you have selected a spot to look at. But what they mean by spot, per se, that means the arrows or the dots on the lanes. And we'd like to show here. As we look out on the lane, you can see here we have a scale drawing of those arrows. There are 7 of them, 5 boards apart. Now, a bowler might like to look at the foul line. There are some dowel marks at the foul line. There are some dowel marks 6 feet out. Harry Smith and Glenn Allison spot right on the foul line. Don Johnson, Jimmy Certain, they spotted the arrows. I'm not going to talk about Dave Soutar and George McDonald at this point because they might want to change their spot. But as you select this target area, either the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th arrow, that will then give you a guideline as you hook the ball into this 1-3 pocket. If the ball hooks too much, a bowler will move to the right to get a little straighter angle and move his spot out, or he might keep the same spot, move his target area by moving his body position to the left, and that will carry the ball into a wider arc out to the right.
Well, Billy, now hasn't it changed a bit recently? Didn't they used to use there's outside arrows more? There's less of a hook right now. It's a more direct ball than it used to be, say, 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, right there, too, Bud. You're very observant, if I may compliment you.
No, you told me that.
Oh, well, you're paying attention then. You see, years ago, the boys played the outside line. And in recent years, Jimmy St. John played even beyond the first arrow. But today, and I would say predominantly in the last year, the shortest line between 2 points, the straight line, because the lanes are hooking a little bit more now. You want to go direct, the ball doesn't break too sharp, and you have consistent control.
Well, you know, we've seen some splits out here, some 7-10s, and they tell me that you're a real master of the 7-10 split, that you have a technique for the 7-10 that's just infallible, and I'd like to see a little demonstration of you and the 7-10.
Well, it's about the only way I've found to consistently make it. You know, Andy Verapapa in years gone back talked.
We're back at the Denver Open once again, live and in color. And in case you just joined us, here's what's happened this afternoon. In the first match, Jimmy Certain got off flying to defeat Earl Johnson. Jimmy Certain bowling .268, and Earl Johnson won $1,600. In the second match, Jimmy Certain bowled .267 to defeat Don Johnson, and Don Johnson picked up $1,800. Then in the third match, Jimmy Certain went down to defeat Dave Soutar, winning .247 to .211. But Jimmy Certain picked up $2,000. So we're down to our final match right now for the Denver Open Championship and $6,000. This between Dave Soutar, the man who has been waiting in the wings, on the left-hand side of your screen, George McDonald from Denver, Colorado. You can feel the tension here at the Broadway Bowl in Littleton, Colorado. Total prize money is $40,000 here. It's one game for $6,000. Good close-up of Dave Soutar.
There's the value of that tight line and that great speed. That ball just held the pocket all the way and what we call stayed right there.
And this is George McDonald, 35 years old, from Denver, Colorado. This is his first tournament. 67 average was .205. He has yet to win on the PBA Tour.
That's a pretty good first shot, but waiting in the wings like that is not the easiest thing in the world, and we'd like to point out that first shot, you want to be a little cautious. When you're over anxious, you have a tendency to pull.
Well, we've seen that happen before with Sam Baca on his first ball. San Jose.
The problem here is in covering that 2-4-5. He got far enough to the left and did not chop it.
George McDonald's highest finish in 1967 was here in Denver when he finished 5th. He has 7 children, 3 boys and 4 girls, aging 6 to 18. And we asked George McDonald if he has any problems on his release.
I found that I have one bad habit of throwing my left hip out of line as I come through the ball. And I try to maintain a more erect position at the foul line with that hip underneath me instead of throwing out to the left.
The crowd, of course, commenting there about the good break that he got. The oohs and ahs pretty well told the story. I think he made an excellent shot as he talked about the hip under him, especially after his first shot. He didn't get the good lift. That time with the hip under him, he got too much.
So Dave Soutar leads George McDonald in the yellow shirt by 1 pin here. Second frame coming up for Soutar.
There's a good shot of Dave Soutar as he positions himself at address. He's very deliberate.
And he's off with a 2-bagger. Dave this year finished 10th in Phoenix and 7th at San Jose for $2,500 so far. Last year he won $22,000 on the tour. Won the Fort Worth Open in '67, has 2 other wins to his credit. The national champion in 1961. Leads by 11.
But that time we talked about the speed. Now, he had the same speed, but he was a little bit more to the right of his target. Perhaps in rushing the line, his swing didn't come into the same leverage position. So the ball hit very light, and with that much speed, it couldn't go through and get the 5.
What are his chances here?
Well, I don't lay any odds on these splits, but it's not an easy one. By moving to the left, he's going to try and just barely touch the right of the 5. And he did it!
Beautiful shot by Dave Soutar.
Right now, his chances are good on that one, Bud.
And Dave remains 9 ahead, shaking his head there. Very happy with that spare. George McDonald now. You must be happy with that one.
He's very happy, Bud, as he is adjusting himself. Now, he did practice on these lanes, certainly, and bowled on them all week, but it's been about 3 games ago, and the games that they bowled in their warm-up since he's been back here.
There's his wife, Bernice, and Billy Allen squinting just to the right.
Maybe he has that good luck charm in his pocket. When you pull 2 in a row and you get 2 strikes in a row, you got a good luck charm somewhere. There we talk about Dave Soutar. You see how deliberate he is in holding that ball to his right.
What knocked off the 7 there, Billy? Something
That was
line.
the 2, but with the good speed that he is using, we talk about sometimes the solid 10. With that speed, it'll go up and over. The same on the 7. The 2 can go up and over.
A very close match here, just about a pin difference.
But we just talked about it, and there it happened. You could see the 6 go well over the top of the 10. Very tough break.
Very tight match here. Dave rolled a perfect game, as we mentioned, here in this tournament. And rolled 288 last week in San Jose.
There you see from left to right. He stuck a little bit and pulled, but he had a good enough angle that the ball stayed and caught a little bit of the 10.
And this match stays very tight. It's the Denver Open live and in color. The gentleman you're looking at right now is George McDonald, who's coming up in the 5th frame. He leads Dave Soutar by 1 pin. And if George wins, he'll win $6,000 in the Denver Open Championship. George left the 10.
Almost another Brooklyn strike. Bud, you said we had no left-handers here today. He's been over in the left-hander's pocket 3 times in a row. One more, and I'm going to accuse him of aiming over there.
Maybe he's listening to you on that spot bowling.
That's probably more times in succession. That's 4 shots in a row that he's missed the pocket, the 1-3 pocket. And that's probably the first time all week he's thrown that many balls in succession out of the 1-3 pocket.
And as you can see, it is even as we go into the 5th. The bowling up to this game has been fantastic. The average this afternoon on both these lanes by all the bowlers has been 241.
Right, and a note of consolation maybe to Jimmy Certain. He shot 746 and is now in the stands. If he gets loose now after those good breaks, it's going to be Katie bar the door. Dave Soutar can't let that happen.
And it's still even. Dave Soutar.
Good mixing ball off the wall. Had breakfast with Dave today, Bud. He told me his wife Betty is home in Detroit watching the show and actually pulling for him. Baby needs shoes.
Well, the winner picks up 6,000 here. The loser picks up 3,000. That'll buy a heap of shoes. And it's still even here in the 7th. Good close-up of the grip taken by Dave Soutar. Look how deliberate he is. He liked that one.
But he positions the ball to his right side. As he puts it into his push-away, it is then in position to drop straight beside his body.
George needs a strike here. 7th frame. How about it?
Well, that's a tough break for him, Bud. He's been high and breaking those splits up. If he could only use that method of making the 7-10 now, he could stay in the match. But that, unfortunately, is not ABC sanctioned that we showed you earlier. I'm sure he's going to go for one, hope that he can bounce it out.
That puts Dave Soutar in a more commanding position now. Leading by 22 over George McDonald here. Just can't seem to find the right line.
Well, let me say something in George's behalf, Bud. He is a very slow-speed player. In a short match, it's very difficult to get your speed adjusted. Now, being a slow-speed player, his ball is hooking a little too much on him, and I'm surprised he hasn't moved to the left. But in his behalf, he has played this angle all week, and he just can't get his speed adjusted for the angle that's worked best for him all week.
And Dave Soutar now going into the 9th. Rather, the 8th for Dave Soutar, leads by 22.
Good reach. Powerful ball, Bud.
He really extended himself on that one.
Yes, he did. He knows now he's increasing his lead by 10 with every strike. No,
And he leads by 32 now. Soutar in the 9th. Winner, $6,000. The loser, $3,000.
But if he marks out, he closes out George McDonald. But more impressively, if he strikes on this ball, he can open in the 10th and still win.
Will he? Ooh, that puts a little different complexion on everything now, doesn't it?
It really does, Bud. In his effort to get the strike, he increased his speed a little bit, and the ball deflected, as we call it, at the pocket. There you see the 8-10. That is a little closer, but like the 7-10, they're straight across. He's going to throw good speed, it looks like, at the 8, and hope he can bounce it out.
Nope. So that puts a little different complexion on this, as I just mentioned. Really tightens things up. George McDonald in the 9th. Soutar leading by 18. There's the footwork of McDonald. There's a perfect ball.
But in that time, George did move to his left, quite a bit to his left, to delay the ball biting the lane too soon, and it carried him right into the 1-3 pocket. Now, as he prepares to shoot the 10th frame, Bud, the situation is this. If he makes 3 strikes, he can shoot 216 and would force Dave Soutar to double.
Coming back here, he trailed by, what, 32?
Right, he now trails by 8. That strike sets him up now for this shot. If he strikes on this shot, he would actually take the lead.
Coming right down to the wire here. The Denver Open, live and in color on the PBA Tour.
He's got good momentum going now, but he went a little wider with that arc, but again, you know, he was in the nose earlier. He didn't want to go high. He wanted to be in the pocket, and he was, but he didn't get that good, powerful finish. Our best possible score now for George McDonald is 205. He converts it, 205. Forces Dave Soutar to mark. Dave needs a mark of some kind.
Just looking at Rudy Proctor, who will be presenting the award here, and the sportsman and industrialist around the Denver area. Here's Dave Soutar. Oh!
Well, Bud, with that strike, he puts himself in a lock-up position. We can't really say he's the winner yet because he needs to stay behind the foul line with one of these next two shots. Right now, to score this for you, he has 194 and 10 for the strike. That's 204. Oh, now that's 214. Now he can throw this one in the gutter, foul, do whatever he'd like.
So there's our winner, Dave Soutar, winner of $6,000. That's his fourth win on the PBA circuit. And he finishes 224. Dave Soutar, the winner of the PBA Open. George McDonald finished with 205. Well, here we are back in Denver once again. And George, would you step in here, please? George McDonald, who finished second from Denver.
Thank you.
George, listening to Billy Welu, who's our expert up there, it seemed that you're having a difficult time sort of finding the proper line here. You're a slow bowler, he mentioned, and perhaps it's awful difficult sitting on the sidelines waiting.
Well, we did a lot of fishing. Took until about the 9th frame before I finally hit the pocket.
Man,
I had trouble.
You were fishing pretty good there. You were still alive, and you with some sort of Brooklyn side strikes almost.
Yeah, what do you mean almost? Going away.
Well, Bernice, your wife is right here, I believe. Bernice, why don't you come in, too, would you please? I think you did real well, Bernice, don't you?
Oh, I'm real proud of him.
Now, let's see, you have 7 children?
Well, collectively.
Well, that's 7 children. No matter how you look at it, it's 7 children. Now, let me see. I got some here. Will you hold Earl Johnson's check for me here? And Don Johnson's check. And Jimmy Certain's check. You guys know who has the checks now, right?
Don't you dare give her mine.
And here's another check.
Okay.
That's George McDonald's check. That's where it's going to end up anyway. What do you mean don't give her the check for $3,000? Congratulations, George.
Thank you.
Good luck, Bernice. Very popular here. That was George's first tournament, and $3,000, that ain't hay. And that'll buy a lot of shoes collectively. And now here's our winner of the Denver Open, Dave Soutar. Congratulations, Dave.
Thank you.
You know, the way George started out and still being alive must have you wonder, didn't it?
It sure did. Well, when I left that 8-10, I just had a feeling. You could see the writing on the wall, you know. He had just moved in deep enough to find the line then, and I figured he would strike out.
Well, he went from 32 behind to making it extremely close.
Right. I don't particularly care for close matches.
Well, you bowled a 300 game here, and you had that 288 in San Jose, and it was real good bowling here today, wasn't it?
Yes, I enjoy bowling on 17-18. It's a very good pair.
Uh-huh. Say, what is the bowler's life like, anyway? You're switching all over the lot. Your wife is home, right?
Right. She's home taking care of the baby, but I'll be home in another week.
I bet if she knew you were going to win $6,000, she would have been here to pick this up.
She might be on her way right now.
And Rudy Proctor, how about coming in here? Rudy Proctor is a sportsman here in Denver, an industrialist, and how about presenting this great big trophy to our winner here?
We'd like to present this to you from the Denver people, and gee, this is...
You're doing very well from the Denver people. We're in Denver, Colorado. You could have said San Jose, New York City. Go ahead.
The big problem I have is this thing is really heavy.
I'll be glad to take it off your hands.
Well, why don't you just do that? Why don't you give it to her? And Dave, you've been sort of coming along now with the $6,000. That's really coming, I'd say, in a big hurry. But you've been bowling very strongly. I mean, you were bowling strongly in San Jose when you had the 288 and the 300 here.
Yes, well, I've been bowling good since the start of the year, and last week, Norm Myers drilled this ball for me, and I've got to give him a little credit. It's a pretty good ball.
Tell me, do you sort of hit a streak of a touch? I mean, you've had these 300 games, these high games. Does it come and go, your touch in bowling?
Well, as far as my 300s, they've all come in streaks. I may get 2 or 3 in a period of maybe a month or a month and a half. Maybe I'm due for another one next week.
Well, you're doing pretty well. You've had, what, 9 sanctioned 300 games,
yes.
Huh? Billy, come on in here. Billy Welu has me all that expert advice all the time. A brief comment on Mr. Soutar's game today. Mr. Welu.
Well, thank you for the kind words.
Take
Bud.
the microphone.
Congratulations, Dave. And on Dave's bowling, I think the finest thing I could say about Dave, he's one of the greatest pocket shooters that I've seen of all time, not only on his condition. Dave has got a straight line to that pocket. He can play from in or from out. And whether you bowl out in the street or up on the roof, he'd still be in the pocket.
Thank you. That's pretty good. And here's this check, Dave, for $6,000. See you next week at the Cougar Open in Kansas City.
Fine,
okay?
Bud.
Thank you very much. That winds it up, ladies and gentlemen, from Denver. Bud Palmer saying so long. Thanks for watching. Our next stop on the Professional Bowlers Tour is Kansas City, Kansas. On ABC Sports, we're bringing you the final rounds of another great PBA tournament, the Cougar Open Championship, 1 week from today. Our thanks to the Professional Bowlers Association, its Executive Director, Eddie Elias, and the Broadway Lanes for their cooperation on today's telecast. Prize money is furnished by the PBA and the Broadway Bowl. The executive producer of the Professional Bowlers Tour is Roone Arledge. This series is produced by Doug Wilson, directed by Mike Friedman. Associate Director, Eddie Nadell. Technical Director, Walt Kubelis. Lighting Director, Tony Azzolino. This is Bud Palmer, along with Billy Welu, saying so long. With the finest bowlers in the world, you have seen the 4th event of the 1968 PBA Series, live and in color from the Broadway Bowl in Denver, Colorado. The Denver Open Championship on the Professional Bowlers Tour.